Ngāti Kahungunu is a Maori iwi located along the eastern coast of the North Island of New Zealand. The iwi is traditionally centered in the Hawke's Bay and Tararua and Wairārapa regions. The tribe is organized into 6 geographical and administrative divisions: Wairoa, Whanganui-ā Orotū, Heretaunga, Tamatea, Tāmaki-nui-a Rua and Wairarapa. It is the third largest iwi in New Zealand by population, with 61,626 people identifying as Ngāti Kahungunu in the 2013 census. Early history. Pre-colonization Ngāti Kahungunu trace their origins to the Tākitimu. According to Ngāti Kahungunu traditions, Tākitimu arrived in Aotearoa from Heretaunga around 1100 to 1200 AD as one of the Waka in the Great Migration. Other Waka included Tainui, Te Arawa, Tokomaru, Arai Te Uru, Matatu Kurihaupo, Aotea, Ngātoki Matawhāorua, and Horo Uta. According to local legend, Tākitimu and its crew were completely tapu. Its crew comprised men only, high chiefs, tohunga and elite warriors. No cooked food was eaten before, during the voyage. The captain of Tākitimu was Tamatea Arikanui, also known as Tamatea Pokai Whenua. He left the Waka at Tauranga, traveling overland until he arrived at Ahuriri in the Hawke's Bay region. The Waka Tākitimu itself continued its voyage to the South Island under a new captain, Tahu Potiki. It is from Tahu Potiki that the South Island iwi of Gaitahu takes its name. According to one account, Kahungunu was the great-grandson of Tamatea and was born in present-day Kaitaia. Other accounts indicate a more direct link, including that Kahungunu was the son of Tamatea. In either case, it has been widely recounted that Kahungunu traveled extensively through the North Island during his early adulthood, eventually settling on the east coast of the North Island. He married several times during his travels, and as a result there are many North Island harp that trace the lineage directly back to Kahungunu. Many of his marriages were arranged for diplomatic purposes, uniting various iwi against their enemies, forming bonds and securing peace. At some point, Kahungunu arrived at Mahia Peninsula, where he pursued and married Rongo-mai-Wahine, a woman from Tararua who was a chief in her own right. She was famously beautiful and, according to legend, had issued a challenge to Kahungunu, insulting his charismatic reputation and inviting him to prove himself worthy of her. Kahungunu accepted the challenge, and after numerous trials succeeded in obtaining Rongo-mai-Wahine's consent to marry. The iwi Ngāti Kahungunu and Ngāti Rongo-mai-Wahine both descend from this marriage. The eldest son of Kahungunu and Rongo-mai-Wahine was named Kahukuranui. His children included 2 sons, Rakahikuroa and Rakaipaaka. Rakahikuroa led a migration of his families and followers from Nukataru on the Mahia Peninsula to Heretaunga, the region known today as Hawke's Bay. Rakaipaaka remained in Nuhaka, where he remains the eponymous ancestor of the Ngāti Rakaipaaka hapu of that area. Accompanying Rakahikuroa from Mahia to Heretaunga was a son from one of his first marriage, Tararua. Not long after their arrival in Heretaunga, Tararua succeeded Rakahikuroa as the leader of the people, and he proved to be a proficient strategist in the struggle for dominance of the region, displacing the Whatu Mamoa, Rangitane Ngāti and elements of the Ngāti Tarariwi, which lived in Petain, Te Whanganui-ā-Orotū and Waiwiki. Within Tararua's lifetime, Heretaunga was brought under the control of his people, who became the first of the Ngāti Kahungunu in that area. Over subsequent generations, the descendants of Tararua split into various hapu, allegiances shifted, and Maori geopolitics in the region was largely played out as an internal struggle for dominance among the hapu of Ngāti Kahungunu, with the exception of raids by Ngāti Porou and repeated attempts by Ngāti Raukawa to settle in Heretaunga. Over time, some Ngāti Kahungunu hapu settled in the Wairārapa region, finding a relatively peaceful existence there until the arrival of European settlers. Of the many hapu to emerge in Heretaunga, Ngāti Whatuaiā-Piti and Ngāti Upokoi-ri were two of the most dominant. The former were the people of the ancestor Te Whatuaiā-Piti, who was a great-great-grandson of Rua, descending from his second marriage. His descendants had a fierce rivalry with Ngāti Upokoi-ri, which was descended from Tararua through marriage to one of his grandsons. Early 19th century. In 1807, the musket wars broke out as chiefs from the northern Ngāpuhi, now equipped with firearms, launched attacks on weaker tribes to the south. The ongoing conflict reached the east coast when, in 1822, a Ngāti Whānui-a war party led by Mananui Te Heuheu II crossed into Ngāti Kahungunu territory. Armed with muskets, Te Heuheu had come to assist Ngāti Upokoi-ri in retaking the lost pa of Te Rotuatara. Te Rotuatara was a fortified island in Lake Rotuatara near the present-day site of Te Aute in Heretaunga. The pa had historically been an important strategic asset of Ngāti Upokoi-ri, but it had recently been occupied by Tangitaruru, an Ngāti Porou chief who had invaded Heretaunga with the help of Ngāti Maru. After the arrival of Te Heuheu's war party, Tangitaruru abandoned the pa. However, it was swiftly reoccupied by Te Para, a young chief of Ngāti Whatuaiā-Piti. Te Heuheu laid siege to the pa but failed to capture it. After his brother was killed in a skirmish at nearby Waimarama, Te Heuheu abandoned his siege of Rotuatara and raided the pa at Waimarama instead. Following this, he returned to Ngāti Whānui-a to regroup and prepare for a second assault on Te Rotuatara. Returning weeks later, Te Heuheu was joined by a Ngāti Raukawa war party led by Te Whātanui, and together they devised a plan to assault the island fortress. They constructed a causeway enabling them to make the crossing from the shore of the lake to Te Rotuatara pa. Te Para commanded such a strong resistance in the ensuing battle that Te Heuheu and Te Whātanui were thrown back in total defeat, with the loss of over 500 chiefs. Te Para abandoned Te Rotuatara after the battle and moved to Porongahau. Although he had beaten back a superior force at Te Rotuatara, Te Para knew that the defensive Heretaunga was unsustainable without the advantage of firearms. He and fellow Ngāti Kahungunu chief Diakitai forged an alliance with Te Wera Hauraki, a chief from Ngāpuhi who had settled on the Mahia Peninsula. Together, the forces retook Te Rotuatara pa from Ngāti Upokoi-ri, who had occupied the fortress island after Te Para escaped to Porongahau. But when news reached the alliance that a huge coalition of Waikato and Whānui-a warriors were amassing to attack Heretaunga, Te Wera agreed to protect Te Para and Ngāti Kahungunu at his fortress settlement in Mahia. Hence, in late 1823, Te Para led an exodus of Ngāti Kahungunu refugees from Heretaunga to Mahia, setting off from the beach at Waimarama. Some chiefs, such as Kurupo Te Mawananui, Te Hapukus, and Tiakitai, remained in Heretaunga, but most joined the exodus. By the late 1830s, hostilities had ended and the Ngāti Kahungunu diaspora began returning to Heretaunga. In 1840, a number of Ngāti Kahungunu chiefs were signatories to the Treaty of Waitangi. Colonization. The spread of European settlement eventually reached Ngāti Kahungunu territory, and led to the rapid acquisition of Maori land by the Crown during the 1850s and 60s. Chiefs from the Heretaunga area, such as Te Hapuku and Heretaunga, lost significant areas of land in sales that have since been labelled extortionate, and which later became matters of dispute and protest. The loss of land during this period led to the emergence of the repudiation movement, a coalition of Ngāti Kahungunu leaders who sought to halt the rapidity of land loss in the region, and to dispute past sales. In 1868, the Eastern Maori electorate was established in the New Zealand Parliament to provide parliamentary representation for Maori in the east of the North Island, an area encompassing Ngāti Kahungunu. The first representatives for the electorate were Ngāti Kahungunu chief Stareha Te Moana-nui, Karaitiana Taka Moana, and Heretaunga. The effectiveness of Maori parliamentary representation during this period was hampered by a lack of fluent English on the part of the elected Maori representatives, and by a lack of confidence in the European parliamentary system itself, which was seen as incapable of protecting Maori interests. As a result, the Kotahitanga movement emerged in the 1890s to advocate for the establishment of an independent Maori parliament. It convened parliamentary-style meetings at Papawa-i-Marau in Wairārapa and at Waipatu in Heretaunga, where key issues of importance for Maori were debated. However, by 1902 Te Kotahitanga had failed to gain recognition from the New Zealand Parliament and was therefore dissolved in favour of local Maori councils, which were established in 1900. 20th century history. Political leadership. At the outset of the 20th century, a new generation of Maori leaders were beginning to participate in the Ngāti Kahungunu political landscape. Te Aute College had opened in 1854 near Hastings, and in the 1880s and 90s it was attended by Api Rana Ngata, Maui Pomeri, Te Rangi Haroa, and Heretaunga. In 1897 they formed the Te Aute College Students Association and became active participants in public life, often mediating between the Crown and Hapu in matters of local land management. In 1909 the group was joined by James Carroll and became known as the Young Maori Party. First World War. When the First World War broke out in 1914, a number of Maori leaders responded by committing the support of the respective Hapu and iwi alumni of the Young Maori Party, some of whom were now parliamentarians, were generally in favour of Maori enlistment and were involved in recruitment campaigns. Api Rana Ngata and Maui Pomeri were the most aggressive proponents of Maori enlistment, and in Ngāti Kahungunu they received the support of Heretaunga, who was the son of the chief Heretaunga. Moana worked with Ngata to drive Maori recruitment campaigns both within Ngāti Kahungunu and throughout other areas of the North Island. Many men from Ngāti Kahungunu were among the Maori who enlisted for war. They were organised into the New Zealand Pioneer Battalion. The battalion participated in the Gallipoli campaign in 1915 and the Western Front between 1916 to 1918. In January 1918 Heretaunga published the Words of Iparirawa, a piece written for soldiers lost in battle. After the war this tune was adopted by the Royal New Zealand Navy as their official slow march. Other songs composed by Te Moana were Tahine Taru Kino, I Rungarona Puke, Hoki Hoki Tonu Mai, Hoe Rate Wakane, Pokarikariana, and the Hakatikatonu. The songs have since become treasured anthems of Ngāti Kahungunus and in some cases were adopted by other iwi due to the wartime popularity. Second World War. After the outbreak of the Second World War in 1939, many men from Ngāti Kahungunu again enlisted and fought overseas, primarily with the 28th Battalion. Soldiers from the Ngāti Kahungunu region were generally organized into D Company of the battalion, along with men from Waikato, Maniapoto, Wellington and the South Island. Additionally, D Company also consisted of some soldiers from the Pacific Islands, and from the Chatham and Stewart Islands. The battalion fought in the Greek, North African and Italian campaigns, during which it earned a formidable reputation as an extremely effective fighting force. It was also the most decorated New Zealand battalion of the war. Following the end of hostilities, the battalion contributed a contingent of personnel to serve in Japan as part of the British Commonwealth Occupation Force, before it was disbanded in January 1946. Wiramu Te Tauhuata was a well-known officer from Ngāti Kahungunu, having served as the Maori battalion's military chaplain. Late 20th century. By 1946 only a small percentage of land in the Ngāti Kahungunu region had been retained by Maori, and the traditional agrarian communities at the core of Maori society were beginning to break down as returned servicemen found employment and settled in urban areas, such as Wairoa, Napier, Hastings, and Masterton. By the year 1966, 70% of Maori men were now working in urban employment centers, particularly freezing works, sawmills, the transport industry, the construction industry, and various types of factory work. In Hawke's Bay, thousands of Maori worked at the Whakatu and Te freezing works sites near Hastings. However, the regional economy and well-being of the Maori community was profoundly impacted when both plants closed, Whakatu in 1986 and Te in 1994. Ngāti Kahungunu Incorporated. Organizational structure. In 1988, Te Runga-nui-o Ngāti Kahungunu Incorporated was established as a centralized organization responsible for iwi development, but it went into receivership in 1994. The organization re-emerged with a new constitution in 1996 under the name Ngāti Kahungunu Incorporated. An election was held in 1997, resulting in the establishment of an elected board of trustees and a new mandate to govern iwi development. Elections are held every 3 years, and all adults with a whakapapa linked to a hapu of Ngāti Kahungunu are eligible to vote. The chairperson of the board of trustees usually represents the iwi in political affairs. In accordance with the constitution of Ngāti Kahungunu Iwi Inc., the Board of Trustees consists of 10 tangata whenua representatives. 1 representative is elected within each of the 6 geographic and administrative divisions of the Ngāti Kahungunu area: Wairoa, Te Whanganui-ā-Orotū, Heretaunga, Tamatea, Tāmaki-nui-a Rua and Wairārapa. The Constitution requires that a candidate for election to any of these positions must already be an elected board member of the tai whenua of the respective geographical subdivision. 2 representatives are elected at large by registered members of Ngāti Kahungunu who reside outside of the Ngāti Kahungunu region. This electorate is referred to in the Constitution as the Tararua. Candidates for election to these positions must have a whakapapa linked to a hapu of Ngāti Kahungunu. 1 representative is elected as a kaumatua, a respected elder of the iwi who is proficient in Ngāti Kahungunu tikanga, kawa, and reo. This representative is elected directly to the board by other kaumatua of Ngāti Kahungunu. One representative is elected at large by the iwi membership to the chair of the Board of Trustees. To be eligible for this position, the candidate must already be an elected board member of a tai whenua of one the geographical subdivisions of the iwi. In addition, the candidate must be proficient in Ngāti Kahungunu, tikanga, kawa, and Rio. As a special provision, if the incumbent chairperson's term as a board member of a tai whenua expires during the tenure as chair of the iwi board, it does not disqualify them from seeking re-election. The board employs a general manager and staff, which oversees the operational affairs of the iwi organisation. General managers have included Labour Member of Parliament Mekua Itiri. An asset holding company was also established in 2005 to manage the IWI's investment portfolio. The company's directors include former rugby player Tyne Randall. Leadership when Te Rūnga-Ngāti-o Ngāti Kahungunu Incorporated was established in 1988. Its first chairperson was Peter Sharples. By 1994, a rapid succession of other chairpeople had led the organization, while severe disharmony between board members was increasingly hampering the board's effectiveness. As a result, a case was brought to the High Court of New Zealand, where the dysfunctionality of the board was given as evidence of the need for the court to intervene. The court placed Te Rūnga-Ngāti-o Ngāti Kahungunu Incorporated into receivership, and placed it under the jurisdiction of the Maori Land Court. After the creation of a new constitution, the period of receivership ended, and in 1996 the organization was renamed Ngāti Kahungunu Incorporated. The first election for the new board took place in March 1997. 1997 election results. Radio Kahungunu. Radio Kahungunu is the official station of Ngāti Kahungunu. It began as Tairāwhiti Polytechnic Training Station Te Tau Itaki Tini to XY, making two short-term broadcasts on 14:31 AM in December 1988, and October and November 1989. It was relaunched in 1990 as Radio Kahungunu 2XD, sharing the 765 AM frequency with Hawke's Bay's Racing Radio and Radio Pacific. It began broadcasting full-time in late 1991, moved dedicated studios at Stortford Lodge in the late 1990s, and began an FM simulcast on the 4th of September 2000. It broadcasts from Hastings, and is available on 94.3 FM and 765 AM in Hawke's Bay. Notable people.